Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's sure to make your passport sweat 7 countries that are giving Americans the old "see ya, wouldn't want to be ya." We're talking about nations that are making it increasingly difficult, if not impossible, for US citizens to cross their borders. This isn't about a couple of grumpy border guards having a bad day. This is about geopolitical tensions, diplomatic standoffs, and a whole lot of finger-pointing on the world stage. So buckle up as we unpack the reasons behind these travel restrictions, from political showdowns to good old-fashioned animosity. We'll explore the historical context, the current climate, and maybe, just maybe, find a glimmer of hope for future travel plans. First up, we're heading east to the land of pandas, TikTok, and increasingly complicated relationships with the United States, China. China's never been known for rolling out the red carpet for American visitors, but things have gotten decidedly chillier in recent years. We're talking visa restrictions, tightened entry requirements, and a general sense that Americans aren't exactly the most welcome guests at the moment. So what's behind this frosty reception? Well, it's a tangled web of issues, my friends, but let's start with the big one: trade. Remember that whole trade war thing? Yeah, it turns out slapping tariffs on each other's goods wasn't exactly the best icebreaker. It's like trying to impress a date by eating all their fries. Not exactly a recipe for a second date, is it? But wait, there's more. We've also got human rights concerns, intellectual property disputes, and that whole South China Sea kerfuffle to factor into the equation. And let's not forget about the whole COVID situation. The bottom line is, if you're planning a trip to the Great Wall anytime soon, you might want to brush up on your Mandarin and pack a whole lot of patience. Next, we're hopping on a metaphorical sleigh ride over to Russia, where relations with the US are about as warm and fuzzy as a Siberian winter. We're talking diplomatic deep freezes, visa volleys, and enough suspicion to make even the most seasoned spy thriller writer blush. Now, tensions between these two superpowers are nothing new. We're talking decades of Cold War standoffs, proxy wars, and enough nuclear near misses to make you want to invest in a lead-lined bunker. But things have really gone downhill in recent years. Thanks to a delightful cocktail of election meddling accusations, military posturing, and a general sense that these two countries are playing a high-stakes game of chess with the entire world as their board. Russia's been busy expelling American diplomats faster than you can say Boris and Natasha, while the US has responded with sanctions and travel warnings that would make even the most adventurous traveler think twice. Ordinary Americans are finding it increasingly difficult to get their hands on Russian visas, with applications facing increased scrutiny, delays, and often outright rejections. So, unless you've got a diplomatic passport or a really compelling reason to visit the motherland, you might want to put those trans-Siberian railway dreams on hold. Because right now the relationship between the US and Russia is about as welcoming as a bear hug in a blizzard. From the icy plains of Russia, we're heading south to the land of sun, sand, and complications, Venezuela. Once a tourist hotspot, it's now grappling with turmoil. Political and economic crises have made it a no-go zone, especially for Americans facing visa hurdles and safety concerns. The US State Department advises against travel. Admire Venezuela's beauty from afar. Chapter 4: Turkey's strained relations on historic ground. Hold on to your fez hats, folks, because we're about to delve into the complex relationship between the United States and Turkey, a country where ancient history collides with modern-day tensions. Once a steadfast ally in a volatile region, Turkey has been drifting further from the US orbit, and let's just say it's making things a little awkward for American travelers. Now, we could spend hours dissecting the intricacies of this relationship, but let's just say it involves a potent mix of political disagreements, military interventions, and a healthy dose of good old-fashioned mistrust. Think of it like a couple that's been together for decades but can't seem to agree on anything anymore, from where to go on vacation to who controls the TV remote. This diplomatic drama has spilled over into the travel sphere, with both countries engaging in a sort of visa tug-of-war. Turkey has slapped restrictions on American visitors, making it harder to get visas and even detaining some Americans on arrival, and the US hasn't exactly been rolling out the welcome mat either, issuing travel warnings and even briefly suspending visa services altogether. There's a growing sense among some Turks that the US is meddling in their affairs, and let's just say they're not exactly thrilled about it. So, what does this all mean for Americans who dream of exploring Istanbul's bustling bazaars or marveling at the ancient ruins of Ephesus? Well, it means you need to be prepared for a little extra scrutiny, a lot of paperwork, and the possibility that your trip might not go exactly as planned. Next up, we're venturing into the Hermit Kingdom, a land shrouded in secrecy, mystery, and a whole lot of no trespassing signs for Americans. That's right, folks, we're talking about North Korea, a country that makes even the most reclusive introvert look like a social butterfly. Now, North Korea's relationship with the United States is about as warm and fuzzy as a bowl of cold kimchi. We're talking decades of animosity, nuclear threats, and enough propaganda to make even the most cynical observer roll their eyes. Unsurprisingly, this frosty relationship has made traveling to North Korea about as easy as getting a straight answer from a politician. The US government has a long-standing travel ban in place, meaning American citizens are strictly prohibited from visiting the country without special permission, which is about as rare as a unicorn riding a roller coaster on the moon. But even if you somehow managed to snag a golden ticket into North Korea, you wouldn't exactly be free to roam around like you owned the place. So, unless you've got a burning desire to see what life is like under a totalitarian regime, it's probably best to admire North Korea's unique charm from a safe distance. Fasten your seatbelts, folks, because we're about to navigate the complex geopolitical labyrinth that is US-Iran relations. A story filled with historical baggage, political standoffs, and enough tension to make a plate of diplomatic canapés sweat. Now, Iran and the United States haven't exactly been best friends forever. We're talking decades of mistrust, sanctions, and enough saber-rattling to make a rattlesnake jealous. This strained relationship has made traveling to Iran a tricky proposition for Americans, to say the least. While it's not technically impossible to visit, it's not exactly a walk in the park either. So while Iran might beckon with its ancient history, stunning architecture, and warm hospitality, the reality is it's a country where politics casts a long shadow over everything, including tourism. Get ready for some salsa and socialism, folks, because we're heading to Cuba, an island nation just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, but a world away in terms of its relationship with the United States. For decades, Cuba was the forbidden fruit of the Caribbean, a tantalizing blend of vintage charm, revolutionary spirit, and a whole lot of off-limits signs for American travelers. Now, the United States and Cuba have a history that's more complicated than a mojito recipe after a long night of rum. We're talking Cold War tensions, trade embargoes, and enough political posturing to make a chess grandmaster's head spin. For years, traveling to Cuba as an American was about as easy as finding a sober Hemingway look-alike in Key West. The United States government had a strict embargo in place, making it illegal for Americans to spend money in Cuba without a special license, which were about as common as a snowstorm in Havana. But then something remarkable happened. In 2014, under the Obama administration, the United States and Cuba decided to try this whole diplomacy thing again, easing travel restrictions and making it easier for Americans to visit the island. However, like a fickle Caribbean breeze, the political winds shifted again, and the Trump administration rolled back some of those Obama-era changes, making it more complicated, though not impossible, for Americans to travel to Cuba. So where does that leave us now? Well, traveling to Cuba as an American is still possible, but it requires a bit more planning, paperwork, and a willingness to navigate a few bureaucratic hoops. So there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of 7 countries where being American might not get you a warm welcome. From visa restrictions to political tensions, the world can feel like a complicated place to navigate, especially with the United States passport in hand. But before you go into full-blown travel despair, remember this. The world is a vast and diverse place, and for every country that's giving Americans the cold shoulder, there are countless others that welcome us with open arms, and maybe a customs stamp or two. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those passports handy, because the world is full of incredible experiences, and a little geopolitical drama shouldn't stop us from discovering them. Just maybe pack a good book on international relations, just in case.